So we're going to be talking about solving some rational equations. And one of the first things that we're going to do when we're solving a rational equation is I'm going to point out a couple things. First of all, a common denominator is a multiple of all of your denominators. And I can spell denominators. Now, that being said, I also want to point out that you can multiply both sides of an equation and it won't impact and it won't affect it won't unbalance the equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides of our equation by the LCD. And the impact that's going to have, the effect is it's going to clear all of your fractions. So let's take an example. Let's say we've got 4 plus 9 over y is equal to 5 over 2. Now, one thing that I'm going to point out with this is when I've got something like this, I'm going to ask you to sort of put a pin in this for a second. Think about what value y could not equal. Y cannot equal 0 here because I can never have 0 in a denominator. And I point that out because there's going to be certain types of questions that we're going to answer where we can end up with an answer that does not work, that would essentially give us something illegal in the equation. That can never happen. So think about that, put a pin in it, and we'll kind of circle back to it. But for now, let's take a look at this equation. I see I've got a factor of y. I see it has to have a factor of 2. So it looks like my common denominator here is going to be 2y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation. That's a 5. I'm going to multiply both sides by this 2y. And when I do that, it's going to get distributed to all of these terms. In this first one, well, I don't have a denominator. 2y times 4 is going to be 8y. On the second term here, we've got the y that will cancel. So I'll have 2 times y is 18. That's an 8. On the right-hand side, the 2's are going to cancel, so I'll have y times 5. So I'll have 5y. And then from here, we can go ahead and solve this. I'll subtract 8y from both sides. And so I've got 18 is equal to, looks like negative 3y. We'll divide both sides by negative 3. Oops, that's a negative 3. So this is going to be negative 6 is equal to y. So, and sure enough, that would be a legal value. And if I want to check, I would see, okay, 4 plus 9 over negative 6 is equal to 5 halves. Well, it's going to be 4 plus, I can reduce this fraction here. That would be, this would be, a negative 3 halves, and is equal to 5 halves. Let's multiply this one by 2 over 2. So I've got 8 halves minus 3 halves is equal to 5 halves. That looks like good math to me. 5 halves is equal to 5 halves. If you can read my chicken scratch. So this is just the check. Remember that this is the answer, this is the check, but there we go. So there's one sort of so there's one sort of question. Let's do another. Let's see if we can, find something else here. Let's do something that might be a little tougher. I'm going to do, oh, how nice or how mean should I be to you guys? Let's do this. I'm going to do x plus 2 over x plus 1 is equal to 1 over x plus 1, and then plus 2. So here I've only got one denominator, and it's that x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by x plus 1. And over here on the left, oh, that's going to be nice. That cancels out very nicely. I've got x plus 2 is left over here. On this one, I need to distribute this. So that's times x plus 1. This is times x plus 1. So my first term on the right, the x plus 1's cancel, so I'm just left with a 1. And here I need to distribute this 2 in here. So I'll have plus 2x plus 2. So now when I solve this, I'm going to go ahead and combine some like terms. So I've got x plus 2 still on the left. I'll add this 1, so I've got 2x plus 3. And now I can subtract 3 from both sides. And that way I've got all of my constants on one side, so I've got x minus 1 is equal to 2x. I'll subtract x from both sides now. So I'll have negative 1 is equal to x. That seems like a pretty good answer, right? Well, let's take a look at my original equation. What would happen if I check this? When I check this particular answer, I would have had, this was, remember, x plus 2 over x plus 1 is equal to 1 over x plus 1 plus 2. When I check this, I'll have negative 1 plus 2 over negative 1 plus 1 is equal to 1 over negative 1 plus 1 plus 2. And so I've got 1 over 0 is equal to 1 over 0 plus 2. And these things right here, both of these terms are undefined, which tells us that this solution right here is what we call an extraneous solution. Now, we didn't do anything wrong. This is just a type of equation that does not have a solution. It is okay. You can do everything right and still come up with an answer that is extraneous. So this one, you would just enter in no solution, or you might say that, okay, x equals negative 1 is an extraneous solution. Now, they're not all quite that tough, but it's a good idea to, like I say, take a look at your answer and see if it works in your original equation. Alrighty, that's what we got. All right now,